The senses are tools of perception. Perception is the foundation of delusion. Delusion or Maya makes us go around in circles. These circles are boundaries of limitation. To break out of these circles, the senses need to be gone beyond. Gurudev, beyond the senses. A young boy who relished chole bhature used his still emerging powers to steal pinnies from a locked cupboard in his home. This boy eventually became a spiritualist who ate whatever was offered to him without fuss, often eating leftovers from the previous day. His spiritual mind recognized the need to improve his guna mix and go beyond. Through diligence and self-observation, he overcame the likes and dislikes most suffer from and because of. As a general rule, our sense organs are connected to different elements, which in turn are connected through various nadis or energy channels to different chakras. Senses therefore become a series of anchors and holdfasts that keep you bound to lower levels of consciousness. Scripturally speaking, the sense of smell related to the earth element is connected to the Muladhara chakra at the base of the spine. Taste to water and the Swadhisthana chakra. Sight to fire and the Manipur chakra. Touch to air and the Anahata chakra. Sound to ether and the Vishuddhi chakra at the level of the throat. The science of yoga advocates pratyahar, or the practice of withdrawing the attention of the mind from the senses. Guru Vasishtha indicates that the senses are tools of Maya that strengthen our belief in the deceptive world of appearances. Though common knowledge, it is uncommon control over the senses that distinguishes advanced spiritualists from the rest. Gurudev not only talked the walk, he practiced it. The biography, therefore, is not only the story of his life, but also the message of it. Over to Puran ji.
तो उनको खाने पीने में क्या पसंद था?
Eat everything, veg.
No fuss.
No fuss. No, very simple, very simple. He never said I'm feeling hungry.
Never said that.
खाने का टाइम हो गया, कभी नहीं पूछा खाना बना कि नहीं बना, कभी नहीं बोला.
We talk to Bittu ji, the ops maverick who handled Gurudev's F&B, about Gurudev's sense of taste or lack of it.
गुरु जी को देखिए, खाने के बारे में गुरु जी को कोई शौक नहीं था. जो मिल जाता था, जैसा मिल जाता था, वो वैसा खा लेते. कई बार हम लोग चीज रखते भी थे तो वो किचन में जाकर जो एक दिन पहले की कई बार बच जाता, रात का जैसे खाना बचा तो उसको भी वो मतलब नमक मिर्च लगाते खा लेते थे. मतलब उनको इस चीज का कोई वो नहीं था कि मुझे स्पेशली मुझे इस टाइप की चीजें दो या इस टाइप के वो दो.
Gurudev's nephew Gaggu is one of the best human beings I have ever known. Gurudev was very fond of him. Not so much as a nephew, but more so because he was and is a man with a heart of gold. Unfortunately, he has not yet been able to win the battle of the tongue. So let's visit Mr. rambleupon.com.
आम के शौकीन, फ्रूट का आम, खरबूजा, आम दिए. और ये भी चीज मैंने देखी, अगर हमारे से गलती में, हमें तो नहीं पता, आम को अब काट के रख दिए, खट्टा पीस आ गया ना, उन्होंने वो जो मुंह को रखा वो तो पूरा खा लिया, प्लेट साइड में कर देते थे. ये नहीं बोलते थे खट्टा है, बाद में हमें पता लगता है यार ये तो खट्टा पीस निकला इसमें से.
Dwarkanath ji was Gurudev's landlord who shared a 120 square feet room with both Mr. Spelling Mistake Nagpal and Gurudev. He remembers.
खाने का क्या शौक था उन्हें?
जैसे फक्कड़ होते हैं ना, खाने का कोई उन्हें मतलब है कि ये होना चाहिए, वो होना चाहिए. जैसे ही शाम को खाना नहीं, आज नहीं बनाना, घर नहीं बनेगा, तो एक की ड्यूटी लगती थी कि तू जाके होटल से रोटी ले आ, चपाती ले आ और दाल ले आ, और एक की ड्यूटी लगती थी स्टोव जला, और स्टोव में मतलब है कि घी डाल के तड़का लगाने के लिए तैयार रख, मैं दाल लाऊंगा। और एक बर्तन साथ दूसरा देते थे कि इसमें दही लेके आना। बस तो गए, रोटियां ली, दाल ली, और दूसरे बर्तन में मतलब है कि दही लाना है, आधा किलो जो भी जितना साइज़ है। तो अगर गुरुजी जाते थे ले लाने के लिए, तो वो क्या करते थे कि जिस बर्तन में दाल डाली है तो हलवाई को बोलते थे इसी में डाल दे यार, दही भी इसी में डाल दे, इसी में डाल दे।
Not complaining about the taste of food or the sourness of the fruit can only happen when the sense of taste becomes history. Considering these accounts and those to follow, I feel gratitude that Gurudev did not become a chef because he would have run the worst restaurant ever. But let's keep this between ourselves because many may not be able to digest this. Do pardon the pun. His youngest daughter Alka sprinkles an ingredient that no restaurant can hope to serve.
गुरुदेव को किसी खाने की चीज का कोई शौक था कि वो सब कुछ ही एंजॉय कर लेते थे?
गुरुजी सब कुछ एंजॉय करते थे जो प्यार से बनाओ। सेम माता जी का कि खाना बनाओ, चाहे एक सूखी रोटी बना दो लेकिन दिल से बना के खिलाओ।
He believed our tongues should not tempt us into eating what we should not. He did not want us to be obligated to others by consuming their food. Besides obligations, food was also a carrier of energies. I remember an age-old adage, "Jaisa an, vaisa man, jaisa pani, vaisi vani." As per ancient Indian philosophy, the same food cooked by different people can have variable results on the minds of those consuming it. The eyesight of the cook infuses in the food his or her qualities and moods. Sitaram, a domestic help employed by my parents, would use swear words throughout the day. I noticed that when I consumed the food he cooked regularly, I found myself using swear words too. Similarly, when you eat consumed with anger, it infects your food and colors it in an invisible red. In temples, the cooks are carefully chosen for this very purpose. At the sthan in Gurgaon, where I spent years on and off, I could correctly guess if Mataji had cooked a particular dish. Amazing, but true. There are other ways in which food can get affected. Food, especially white-colored food, can get infected by spirits dwelling where it is cooked or left uncovered. Often food products can become a tool through which the effect of black magic is transferred to someone. I have been a victim of this before I met Gurudev. The person who gave me arthritis through black magic used white pedas or sweetmeats as a medium. He had infected them using reverse mantras of a particular type and rituals which made them carriers of the negative energy. Veerji, one of Gurudev's older disciples, saw this in a vision and even knew where this had been initiated. Water too is a carrier of emotions and feelings and can be used to heal and disturb. Kamlesh, a resident of Gurgaon, was made to drink a taweez dissolved in a glass of sharbat with the intent to kill her. She was saved from this lethal threat by Gurudev. And I was witness to this incident like I have been to over hundreds of such cases over the years. The energies infused in food and water can affect both body and mind. These learnings of our ancients are now being corroborated in scientific labs. Gupta ji was like Gurudev's F&B manager de facto, who kept him teed up. Gupta ji's tea stall was where Gurudev would meet many visitors who came to either ask for his blessings or seek his help. According to him, the Mahaguru lived mostly on tea and fresh air.
उनको किसी फल का शौक था?
नहीं ऐसी कोई नहीं।
लेकिन सुबह सुबह जैसे आए 7:30 बजे तो ब्रेकफास्ट वगैरह नहीं खाना कोई?
नहीं कुछ। वो माता ही कहती थी कि सवेरे को माती सोती होती थी, निकल आते थे वहां से, तो नींबू पी के आते थे गुरु जी सवेरे।
क्या?
नींबू को काट के ना,
नींबू?
हाँ काटा, एक गिलास पानी में डाला, पी के फिर आते थे घर से।
नींबू पानी में पी के आते थे?
हाँ
बस।
तो माता ही कहती थी, मुझे पता था गुरु जी कब निकल के घर से, कहते मुझे मालूम पड़ता था, नींबू कटा मिलता था मेरे को, तो गुरु जी हाँ गुरु जी निकल के आए थे।
खाने पे उनका क्या विचार था?
खाते कहाँ थे?
Guptaji's comment that Gurudev didn't eat much was something I myself was witness to. Very often we would be embarrassed to eat in his presence because he wouldn't eat anything. I guess you can call it sympathetic starving. Sometimes I wonder if he staged all of this only to help us go beyond our senses. Giri Lalwani adds his bit.
What was Gurudev fond of eating?
Where he was not much fond of eating. He used to hardly eat. In fact, the way of his eating was very simple. I saw him eat. So many times I saw him eating at farmhouses, taking one chapati and keeping sabzi on it in his hand, sabzi and roti, and start having that. Like how mostly Indian farmers, they have it. He used to love simple food.
Overcoming the senses was not natural for him. He was fond of good food in his younger days, and you will hear those accounts from Gaggu, Raji Sharma, and others. However, he slowly but steadily overcame his sensory weaknesses. It was not that he became a robot and did not enjoy a dish or two, but generally speaking, he kept these senses at bay. Between the 70s and the 80s, the change was enormous. Back to the old days with Raji Sharma.
Raji, I wanted to know from you, as you've known Gurudev from the mid-70s, what was the differences in his own personal growth and practice in terms of his sensory attractions? Like, for example, his sense of taste, touch. Was he very fond of food earlier, and then did he get less fond of food? Did he give up that sensory attraction? Or is there any such thing that you can tell us about music or sense of smell or whatever?
I think Guruji was very balanced in all this. To him, really, it didn't matter. Whatever food was there, whether it was a parathi at a time or it was even just a bread without butter, it was a fan or a matti with chai. But yes, sometimes there's something that he's very fond of. It's like chaat pakodi, for instance. Golgappa he was very fond of. But it was like, it's there, it's not there.
Right.
So to him, it really mattered or didn't matter, was the same.
Even though culinary delights were not an integral part of Gurudev's menu, restrictions on the sense of taste were. He could, in odd circumstances, fill his stomach with very little or almost close to no food. He demonstrated this on himself many times, and also at times on his disciples. He could live without meals for days. Only a few cups of tea would suffice. For a man who could dematerialize himself and be in two places at the same time, living without food was a piece of cake. However ironic the last sentence might sound, his daughter Renu shares her viewpoint and introduces a very interesting person named Indu Didi, who looked after Gurudev more than any daughter could and was the mainstay of the kitchen at Gurgaon.
को मैंने अब एक्सपीरियंस किया। इंदु दीदी की बात मैं बताऊंगी कि खाने के चोर थे जितना हो सके। बाकी चीजों में खुश है तो खुश है ना, जब टाइम मिलेगा तो खा, जब टाइम होगा खा लेंगे, खाली होंगे, अभी रुक जाओ, बाद में चाय चलती रहती थी। पसंद तो सब कुछ ही करते थे। मैंने देखा कि खाने की चीजों में उनको खुद भी बनाते थे कई चीजें, जैसे साउथ इंडियन भी पसंद करते थे, गोलगप्पे पसंद करते थे, भटूरे, चने पसंद करते थे, उनकी पसंद से ऐसा नहीं हुआ कभी भी कि उनके लिए बनाई गई है वो खाएंगे, ऐसा नहीं हुआ घर में कभी, मैंने नहीं देखा। खुद वो उपमा अच्छी बनाते थे, डैडी ही बनाते थे, और आलू की सब्जी बनाते थे बहुत अच्छी, दही वाली खट्टे वाली वो बनाते थे, पोहा बनाते थे, ये चीजें। और हमने उनकी हाथ की घर में नहीं खाई, लेकिन जब हम टूर पे जाते थे तो वहां पे कई बार वो अच्छे मूड में होते थे, लोग भी कम होते थे, तो कहते इंदु दीदी को कहते कि आज इंदु दीदी कहते गुरुजी कल भी रात को आपने नहीं खाया, सुबह फिर कहते पुत्र जेनू खिलान च मजा आ गया ना, खान दा मजा नहीं रहता।
Those who learn to feed others seldom care about feeding themselves. Isn't that the sentence of the century? Gurudev would have been a nutritionist's nightmare. His food habits weren't exactly habits, as there was no sense of timing. He ate whenever, whatever, and often never. His mastery over the senses allowed him to play by his own rules. Attending to him, however, was no easy task, as you did not know what to expect. The four musketeers certainly had their work cut out. Here's one of them, Bittu ji.
गुरुजी खाने को कहते थे कि ये ईश्वर है, अनाज परमेश्वर है, इसका आपको अनादर करने का कोई हक नहीं है। लेकिन एक दिन बड़ा अच्छा मैं आपको एक बताता हूँ कि गुरुजी की कृपा से बड़ा मुझे टाइम मिला गुरुजी को भोजन कराने का। रात को खाना देते थे, तब मैक्सिमम टाइम वो ऐसे खाना को किया, यहाँ तक लाए और छोड़ दिया, बोले मैंने नहीं खाना, ले जाओ। अब गुरुजी ने नहीं खाया तो मैंने नहीं, माताजी ने नहीं खाया। हम लोग गुरुजी की थाली में, मैं एक सर्वेंट होता था गुरुजी का कृष्णा, और एक डॉग होता था कालू। वो कालू भी इतना वो था कि आप बिलीव नहीं कर सकते कि वो जब गुरुजी खाना खा लेते थे उसको आप कितना मर्जी खाना दे दीजिए, वो तब तक नहीं खाता था जब तक, और कोई उसको बोलना गुरुजी ने खाना खा लिया तब उसने खाना खाना, तो सब भूखे रहते थे। एक दिन खाना आया तो माताजी ने उनको गुरुजी ने मना कर दिया, तो माताजी थोड़ा एंग्री हो गए कि आप क्या करते हो। मैं भी माताजी के साथ हो गया। गुरुजी एक बात बताइए, आप कहते हो कि परमेश्वर अन परमेश्वर है, इसका अनादर नहीं करना चाहिए, मगर सबसे ज़्यादा अनादर तो आप करते हो। कहते क्या मतलब? अगर आपके सामने खाना आता है आप तोड़ते हो और रख देते हो, कहते हो ले जाओ। अब वो ना आप खाते हो ना माताजी खाते ना आप खाते हैं। गुरुजी ने मेरा बाजू पकड़ा, कहते बैठ। बोले बेटा जब मैं खाना खाता हूँ या तोड़ता हूँ तो मेरी आंखें खुली होती है बंद होती है? ये बता। मैं बंद होती है। हाँ, मैं खाना यहाँ तक लेके जाता हूँ, मैं देखता हूँ कि मेरा कोई बच्चा चाहे किसी वजह से, चाहे वो ट्रैवलिंग में है, चाहे हॉस्पिटल में है, चाहे बीमारी से या कोई भी हालात है, उसकी वजह से भूखा है, तो मैं खाना नहीं खा सकता।
This was his way of raising a red flag for the powers of destiny and the planets themselves. It was in his destiny to eat a meal, but he gave up that right, and by doing so, gained the right to defer or reassign the meal. To put it simply, he would sacrifice his own meal and reassign it for the benefit of another, a practice previously unheard of. To know this philosophy is one thing, but to practice it is another. Only complete control over one's mind can help overcome temptations and stick to one's resolve. In his younger days, Gurudev was a movie buff. He even applied to the Film and Television Institute in Pune for admission, but fortunately, I repeat, fortunately, was rejected. Thank God for large mercies. Destiny often connives with the great. The powers that be help in strange ways. But movie tickets? Over to Dwarkanath ji.
गुरुजी को पिक्चर देखने का बहुत शौक था, बहुत ज़्यादा, हमसे बहुत ज़्यादा। तो देखा 9 बज गए, नाइट शो देखते थे शीला सिनेमा। तो वो कहते थे चल भाई चल, नागपाल जी को नागा बोलते थे और मुझे द्वारकाधीश बोलते थे। तो चल भाई तैयार हो जाओ। अरे अब तो टाइम ही नहीं है वहाँ, मतलब कैसे टिकट ही नहीं होगी, क्लोज होगी विंडो। तो कहते नहीं चलते हैं, मिलेगी टिकट, ज़रूर मिलेगी। तो जैसे ही हम मतलब है कि पिक्चर हॉल बाहर एंट्री हुई तो ऐसे लगता था कि ऑलरेडी उनका मतलब कोई ऐसा करिश्मा था कि एक आदमी खड़ा है, जान पहचान का नहीं है, वो वेट कर रहा है कि कोई ये मैंने टिकटें खरीदी थी नहीं जाना, तो हाँ भाई टिकट चाहिए, हाँ चाहिए, कितनी चाहिए, 3 है। कहता 3 ही है मेरे पास टिकट। तो अंदर हॉल में एंट्री हो जाती थी।
Another manipulator of movie tickets was Gurudev's disciple Bade Jain Sahab. He took his wife to the movies only to find that the show was houseful. In an effort to impress her and make her develop faith, he told her not to worry as the tickets would be arranged. A little while later, as predicted, someone offered Jain Sahab 2 movie tickets for a houseful show. Unfortunately for him, converting Mrs. Jain would take a lot more convincing. As time went by, all of Gurudev's hobbies and interests got diluted into the river of seva. From the time he awoke to the early morning hours when he went back to sleep, all he would do was serve and serve, with a commercial break when he went to office. Gurudev's sense of smell was also of little consequence. It wasn't an obstacle for him. I never saw him own or use a cologne. He believed that to overcome duality, both stench and fragrance should not affect. Neither beauty should attract, nor lack of it distract. He warned us that after death, we would come at a crossroad where on one side there would be dimensions that were beautiful, and on the other, very plain looking. He told us never to choose the aesthetic ones as they were the lower planes, and the simple ones led to higher dimensions. He also made us realize that if the eyes got attracted to the opposite gender, it could be a downer. As the eyes are tools for taking in energy and expelling it, attraction would expel the energy outward and lead to a loss of our aura. From the sense of sight to the sense of touch. The sense of touch covers aspects like oversensitivity to weather, sensual pleasures, etc. I recall that even in the peak of winter in the hills, all he would wear was a single sweater. It was not a sense he had to work at controlling. I am also reminded of a time when I visited him at his camp at Mungauli, near Bina in Madhya Pradesh. As I had reached the camp before Gurudev returned from work, I was walking around enjoying the cold weather in a t-shirt. When I heard that he was about to arrive, I felt he might not approve of the fact that I was not wearing a sweater. So, to keep up pretenses, I quickly slipped one on. And then came a masterstroke from the Mahaguru. I don't think he approved of my pretense. While I felt comfortable without a sweater, I started shivering and my teeth started chattering all in less than a minute, despite having a sweater on. When he saw me in that condition, instead of appreciating my intent to not upset him, all he said was, "What was the need?" And my shivering stopped instantly. A lesson learnt. Although I am not exactly sure what the lesson was. But this incident certainly demonstrated for me his powers to manipulate my sense of touch in a matter of a few seconds. What about Gurudev's sense of hearing? Some expert comments from Shri Raji Sharma.
As far as music is concerned, yes, he used to enjoy some dhuns.
In the early years, he had the weaknesses of the senses like you and I. But over time and with practice, he overcame them. Later on, it became an act. Gaggu flashes back to memories of his maternal uncle or Mamaji. He has promised not to sound profound.
कौन से गाने गुरुदेव को पसंद होते थे? आप तो वहाँ साथ में रहते थे उनके।
अरे यार वो बिस्लिंग करते थे। ज्वेल थी फिल्म आई थी, उसका एक गाना था, रुला के गया सपना मेरा, बैठी हूँ का बहुत सवेरा। माउथ ऑर्गन नहीं होता था।
हाँ हाँ, वो बजाते थे।
हाँ वो बजाते थे, उसपे वो सावरे सलोने आए दिन बहार के।
क्या बात है। मैं जो देख रहा हूँ कि हो सकता है ये यंग एज में उनकी होती होगी ये शौक है, बट बाद में इनके शौक के तो खत्म हो गए।
शौक तो किल हो जाते है ना, है ना। तो गुरुदेव के साथ भी तो बेचारों के साथ यही था ना।
करेक्ट। तो मेरा जो मेरे को ये बता, इनको पहले तो म्यूजिक का शौक भी था, ये गाने भी गाते थे?
गाते थे ना, अकेले बैठ के कई भाई वो लगे रहते थे। हाँ, तुम्हारा वो भी सुनते थे, क्या कहते थे वो, क्या याद था, बिना का गीत माला।
अच्छा।
हाँ, हमने बचपन में देखा हुआ उनको इस ढंग से, साइकिल पे ऑफिस जाते थे, है ना। वहां से क्या नाम है, शादीपुर खामपुर से पूछा तो घंटियां लगाते हुए, जब ये विस्लिंग करते हुए गाना गाते थे, विस्लिंग करते जाना, सीटी बजाते हुए। हाँ, वही रुला के गया सपना मेरा, बैठी हूँ कब हो सवेरा।
Gaggu's Mamaji had a passion for music and was fond of the black and white era songs. When Mamaji became Guruji, this passion started diminishing. When Guruji became the Mahaguru, this sense of hearing became a tool rather than a hobby. Call it progress or call it regress. Overcoming this sense is a qualification for higher attainment. If you want to get placed in lokas higher, then the senses you must rein in. Gurudev did it with effort and resolve. We can too. We can find inspiration from so many who have. A great example was him. कोई इतना अमीर नहीं होता कि अपना गुजरा हुआ कल खरीद सके। कोई इतना अमीर नहीं होता कि अपना गुजरा हुआ कल खरीद सके, और कोई इतना गरीब भी नहीं होता कि अपना आने वाला कल ना बदल सके।